So today I'm planning on doing a review of the Ampharos EX Battle deck. I'm going to do it in two sections. So the first section is going to be me reviewing the deck in a vacuum, like what's its value like, is it actually a good starting product, because it does say it's a beginner product, like how good is it as a beginner product. The second section is going to be me talking about it as a retail product. Like, what is it like as a retail product in a retail display? Because the retail display comes with two different decks. So what is it like when you consider that other deck? I'm probably going to do a bit of complaining about the English version of Pokemon during that part, but I think it is probably necessary. Move on to section 1. So what comes in the box is you get a code card which will have basically the entire deck in Pokemon TCG Live. You get a single copy of Ampharos EX. You get the rest of the deck. And unfortunately this is a Pringle, just because it wasn't like held in anything. You get a coin. You get a bunch of damage tokens which you kind of need. You get a quick start rulebook here. A sort of a rough explanation of what the deck's supposed to do thing, which has both the Ampharos deck and the Lucario deck in it. Some extra sort of like rule information cards and a kind of neat playmat. You basically have everything you need to play in this one box, which costs $7 except for card sleeves. Value wise, I think it's actually a pretty good thing, and it is a good starting product. You just need to buy some sleeves and you're good. Well, one complaint I do have is that I'm not a huge fan of like pre-constructed decks which have very few, like, so one copy or two copies of basically the most important card in the deck. They basically force you to buy, if I wanted to build an Ampharos EX deck, and this is currently the only way to get this card, I would need to buy multiple copies, probably three, ideally 3 copies of this deck, just to do that. And then I'll have a bunch of completely wasted cards here. Like, so I'll have essentially, like, no one will ever probably need like 54 electric energies, but you would have it because you have 3 decks. So I don't like the idea of having so much waste. So I think I'm okay with like limited numbers of stuff if you don't necessarily need a playset of something, which technically in Pokemon you don't. If you can get the card somewhere else, so for example, if a deck has like the maximum, a full playset of all this stuff exclusive to a deck, and then everything else what could be in another set, could be the things will have less than a full playset, so you can still get them elsewhere. Because this deck actually has a lot of good stuff in it. It does have a lot of good trainers and stuff. It does have 2 copies of basically every non-Pokemon card in it. They're also all available in the base Scarlet and Violet set. You could theoretically, like let's say you wanted 4 Nest Balls, you could buy one deck, and you can just pull Nest Balls from the main set. Just the issue is, it's just the fact that the Ampharos EX is just 1 copy. I think the deck would be better if it had 2 copies of the Ampharos EX. So I think you could justify just running 2 if you really wanted to. Yeah, because I think 1 is too little. And ideally you'd probably play maybe 3 or 4, but 2 would be good enough. I'd be fine with 2. It means even if you did want to get a full playset, you just have to buy 2 decks, and you're not getting as much wasted cards which you don't have use for. That's sort of the issue with... As one of the issues I find with trading card games is you end up having so much spare, like essentially bulk commons and uncommons which aren't actually that useful, or it's just too many for people to actually use. Because it wouldn't be so bad if you ended up with extra copies of something that you'd use in every deck. Because that's the thing, if this deck came with like 4 Nemonas, right, be able to use her in multiple decks without any issue. But you have an issue where you have like 3 copies of... because you have 3 copies of Mareep, right? So Mareep is available in the main set. But then if you buy 2 copies of Ampharos, you'd end up with 6 Mareeps, which is 2 wasted Mareeps. and you're only really going to use Mareeps in this deck. Like, you're not likely to use them elsewhere, so I'm not a huge fan in that regard. But yes, I think ignoring that one complaint of mine, which is more like just waste, I'm not a huge fan of waste, I think it's still a good product, an entry-level product by itself in a vacuum. I almost forgot that it also comes with this kind of shitty cardboard deck box. And usually I'm not completely against cardboard deck boxes, like they're not the best, but they will work. And for example, you could like put that in Electronic box if you need to. The trouble is it's too small. Once you sleeve this deck, it will not fit in here. So it's like, it's kind of pointless. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan, honestly, because it's basically barely just enough right size for a non-sleeve deck. So that is basically in the vacuum overview of it. Now moving on to the second section. So this product comes in a display with two different decks, right? Now if you're familiar with Pokemon and like resistances and weaknesses, you'll probably understand what I'm about to say, or at least get the general picture. So if you walk into a store and you're like, I want to just pick up two decks so I can just play with a friend whenever I want, or maybe I have children and I want them to be able to play the game, and okay, so I see this one box, one display, two different decks in, and I buy one of each. One of these is significantly better than the other. Not necessarily better, as in like it's a better deck, but so almost everything in the Ampharos deck is weak to almost everything in the Lucario deck. So your best thing will just die to their best thing. And it's not an even matchup. If they were using cards from the leftover cards from the starters, the original Japanese starters, so I will mention earlier, they could have done an electric psychic deck. So electric deck and a psychic deck, and they wouldn't have this issue. They'd have two separate decks that would probably be okay against each other without any significant downsides. And it would just work. So I do not like this as a retail product. I think it is not good and not thought out well. And I do not think that the English team have any idea what they're doing. So I'm about to show you something else. So these decks are the very first, these basically came out on release with the first Scarlet and Violet set. These are the 3 decks available in Japan, right? You've got all the starters, each have their own deck, but then each deck also has a secondary thing. So for example, you have the grass deck with its fighting stuff in it. So against the fire deck, so your grass stuff's where you get your fire, but your fighting's good against their lightning. And then you do also have, then there's the water and psychic deck, which is in itself a bit weird. Instead of being like the secondary energy type being good or worse against the secondary one, it's actually a primary one, which is either worse against one or good against the other. So the matchup between the fire deck and water deck, the water Pokemon are either weak or strong against the fighting stuff being what it is. So it's a bit weird. It's not, you can think of this like as a two-way rock, paper, scissors. Each deck can beat the other deck as well as lose against the other deck. But from the last deck it's a bit weird, but still the general purpose is kind of the same. And that's the thing, as you can see, the Lucario and the Ampharos from these decks, the exclusive cards for the English decks are from these. So they could have used a Mimikyu and Ampharos. And it would have had a better product. And I think there is a water psychic one coming up next, the next 2, which will be a lot better because you won't. Yes, I think the water psychic decks that are coming out next are actually probably going to be a significantly better product than this was. If that makes sense. Because I kind of wish we just got these Japanese decks. Because most of the cards are, you could just keep them in the normal sets like they are now, and just have the exclusive Lucario, Ampharos, and Mimikyu, and they'd just work. These decks would just work because you could have a kid walk into the store, they just played Scarlet and Violet, they had their favorite Pokemon, like starter, and you're like, cool, I can just buy a deck with this in it. So I think the English side is definitely screwed up big time, I think. Just, they should have had these decks as they are, basically. And you can also tell these decks, so with the English ones, right, all the support's exactly the same, so exactly the same supporters, exactly the same items, and then everything's exactly the same. They also have 18 energies, right? The Japanese ones, they're all different. These are all different. And they only have 16 energy, which is probably better. So there's actually more thought gone into these decks than the others, because they're not perfectly balanced. They're not the same sort of numbers like the English ones. Because there's a lot more thought, like the items are just different. The supporters are different. Like different numbers as well. Like the Japanese team have put thought into the decks, and the English team haven't. They're basically taking, we have this exclusive card which we no longer have a place for as we got rid of those decks. What do? Okay, we'll slap it in this deck with a bunch of other electric stuff and some birds. Problem solved. But it doesn't solve the problem. It solves their problem, but it doesn't actually help the game. Because this is a bit of a round, but I don't understand it. Because to me, you want a product that new people can play, just pick up and play without any issues. You want relatively balanced things in a way that if everyone has a trial deck or a starter deck, they all can play each other without having too much issues. And it's good to just have the starters as well, because everyone likes the starters. Like, that's going to be the easiest sell. Like, the easiest way for a kid to figure out what deck they want is probably based on the starters they picked when they play the game. I just don't understand the English Pokemon company half the time. Because they do nothing what actually helps get kids into the game. And that's their biggest audience. You always have kids buying Pokemon packs. Right? And they probably don't play the game, but if you had good products like these Japanese decks, you could not only get kids, especially if they're affordable. Because I paid $20 for this in New Zealand, right? Which is like a price of, just over the price of 2 packs here. So our pack's like $8 to $9. Probably going to go, it used to be 8 and they're probably going to go towards 9 now because of like inflation and stuff, right? But you're getting so much for it. So I think as a product it's good. You just need to make sure they're all balanced and they're always available. Because you, ideally, so long as until the next game comes out and we get the next game set, first set, these Japanese starters could be constantly in print. So they're always available. And they're always there for a new kid who just played Pokemon to come to the store. It's like, oh wow, my favorite starter has a deck. Because there's a big potential player base, right? And then they do nothing to actually expand it. Like Magic's actually worse. Because at least this exists. At least this product exists. Magic doesn't have any affordable starters. So like at least they have starters. But like I think they can do a lot more to help build their game. Because currently, at least in my area, there's basically no community. There's no, like we tried for a bit to play Gym Leader, which is the Gym Leader Challenge, which is like a singleton deck. Singleton, non like EXs and stuff. And we kind of, even a bunch of people have decks, but it's still like, we don't have a normal community playing games. And even then I didn't really like the singleton aspect. I'd rather just have a non rules text normal thing. Because it would be nice. The game can have its issues, but they can still, like, it would be nice that you see people playing. And you just don't. But yeah, after those couple of runs, I think that is the end of my review. So I think for a quick conclusion, the deck in a vacuum is, I think it's good. It comes with everything you need with the exception of sleeves to play the game, and technically you don't actually need sleeves to play the game, it's just, you probably should use them. And yeah, it's generally good, the price is good. It's just slightly on the wasteful side when it comes to like numbers of cards in the deck and the amount of decks you need to buy to actually make a proper deck out of it. As a retail product, it's not good. It's bad. Because as soon as you compare it to the other deck in the display, it just doesn't work. It has potential. It's just not done right, I don't think. So that is the end of this review. Thank you for watching and make sure you like and subscribe. Also, what I'm going to do, I am going to do a follow-up video to this. Is I'm going to take this step and I'm going to use all the cards I got from essentially every product I've bought that's come out of this year. I'm going to use to make this into a prop deck and see how we go. And yeah, so that will be a separate video, just sort of like see what I can come up with. But yeah, thank you for coming everyone, and I will see you next time.